Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Chad here from LuTunes, and today I want to talk briefly about Over the Garden Wall. Now, I watched this 5-part Cartoon Network series on my flight recently to Vegas for my birthday, and the bottom line is I really loved it. There was a time when it first came out, and basically every comment on all of my videos was telling me to go watch it, to talk about it, to make a review, and all of this, and I never really ended up doing that. It just kept kind of sitting on my to-watch list, but finally I did get to watch it, and I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much, in fact, that I actually tweeted out that I wasn't going to make a reaction video because it would just be me gushing about this thing for like 30 minutes, and no one really wants to hear that. But this morning, as I had all of these things to do, videos to edit, errands to run, laundry, all of this stuff, I had all this stuff to do, but I found myself rewatching Over the Garden Wall. And something about me is that I rarely rewatch stuff like right after I've just seen it. I mean, of course, for the channel, I'll rewatch stuff just to refresh my memory on stuff I saw like 10 years ago. I mean, it's basically a necessity. But I don't usually just rewatch stuff like right after I've just seen it. So as I was rewatching it this morning and loving it just as much, I started to realize that this is something pretty special and pretty awesome, and that I would make a quick reaction video just for those of you guys who loved it as much as me and maybe just want to hear some more discussion about it. I know for me, when I see something that I really love, like a movie or a TV series, I look up like a zillion things about it online. I just scour its IMDb page. I look up interviews. There's like 6 or 7 YouTubers that I have to watch reaction videos of to a lot of these superhero trailers and stuff like that. And I'm just one of those people that loves to hear further coverage on stuff. So maybe you are too, and maybe this will add to your experience in some way, because it's fun to hear more opinions about something that you love. And if you haven't seen this, seriously, go watch it. I can't recommend it highly enough. I got it on iTunes for like $10, the whole deal. Get all 10 episodes plus a few behind-the-scenes featurettes, which leave a little bit to be desired. I mean, I personally could watch like an hour-long documentary on the making of this thing, but they're there and they come along with it, so it's appreciated at least. And for $10, it's not bad. So I'm going to skip kind of the summary and just assume that anyone listening to this has already seen it. And I'm going to divide this quick reaction into kind of 2 zones. The first one, I'm just going to talk about what I loved about this series, this mini-series. And the second, I'm going to talk about the ending and some of the theories and what all of that's about. So Over the Garden Wall is spectacular for many reasons, and I'm just going to talk about a few of those. First, I want to talk about the voice cast, which was just sensational. I just loved hearing so many unique, different voices, and yes, it's like celebrity voice actors, you could say, or celebrities providing the voices, but it is just done so spectacularly. It's not like, oh, hey, can we get Chris Rock? It's like people that are right for the roles and that really nail them. And because I was watching on a plane, I wasn't able to look up the voices. Like, I'm that person where if I'm watching a movie, like an animated movie, and I hear a voice, I'm like, who is that? And then I'll pause the movie and go IMDb it. It's a whole thing, and it really breaks my immersion, and I wish that I wouldn't do that. But I do tend to do that. So it was nice when I watched it on the plane to just watch it in one shot. I couldn't look up the voices. The voice of Beatrice was driving me crazy, and I theorized that it was that woman from 2.5 Men, and when I got off the plane, it was like the first thing that I Googled, and I was like, yes, and I got it right, so I was pretty happy about that. But the one that did slip past me was Tim Curry as Mother Whispers. I think that was her name. That super creepy, giant-headed lady, which I did have a nightmare about on the plane home. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of creepy stuff in this series, and I'm going to talk about that in just a bit. But that was the thing that gave me a nightmare for some reason. So anyways, back to the voice actors. Elijah Wood, just, I mean, get out, come on, get out of town. Elijah Wood just giving a sensational presence to Wirt. I just can't imagine anyone else doing that role. It makes me think back to 9, which I've mentioned in videos that I wasn't the biggest fan of. I think Elijah Wood can shine a lot more with a character like Wirt, who's kind of socially awkward, a little bit like spastic, than just kind of I don't know what you could call the protagonist of 9, but so yeah, Elijah Wood was great. The kid, his name escapes me. He was fantastic. I mean, the kid who played Greg. The two of them are just so likable, so lovable, and really just the entire cast. I mean, it was such a great performance from the entire ensemble. It was kind of just an all-around home run in terms of voice acting. Beatrice, like I mentioned, the woman from 2.5 Men. And sorry, I don't have IMDb up or anything right now to recall a lot of the names, but she was great. Very interesting character with her. I'm still very intrigued by her character. Christopher Lloyd, the woodsman, so great, so awesome. One of the behind the scenes features talks about the actor that played the frog when he would come to life and sing, and the narrator, and he was great. I think his name was Jack Jones or something. That's probably wrong, but something along those lines. He was fantastic, and you kind of get the sense that the creator, Pat McHale, I think it is, he really puts a lot of importance on these older values. The whole series just has this whimsical, folky, southern, almost Creole feel to it, and it's very cool. There's a soundbite from Elijah Wood on one of the special features where he says, if this series were an album of some kind, it would be played on a phonograph. And I think that is the nail right on the head. But the thing with that is, this whole kind of phonograph, old school style thing can come across very ironic, and this doesn't at all. It kind of just embraces that vibe and runs with it, and just kind of loves it. It treats it with respect. So that just works so well. The animation is just so beautiful. The character designs are simple, especially for a lot of the human characters, but there's really weird things like fish or turkeys or like just bizarre forest elements that are animated really beautifully. And just because like Wirt and Greg are simple in their designs doesn't mean their animation is any less technical per se. Their character designs are great as well, and it's just a joy to watch them in general. So let's see. I touched on the voice acting, the design, the sort of feel of the thing, the animation, all of that. I absolutely love it. The music is I'm not a music expert of this type. I don't know whether you would call it kind of folk-ish. I mean, it's folky, but there's some other aspect to it. It's kind of got this old style steamboat, like I said, Creole. I don't know if that's really the right way to express it, but you guys know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. It was really cool. It just gives you this great feeling. Again, with the immersion, I mean, I can't really think of an animated thing that had music like this, and it just added a lot to it. And the music and the style is something that contributes a lot to my feelings about the ending, so let's talk about that, because I think that's kind of the main thing that people want to talk about when it comes to Over the Garden Wall. So when I first started watching Over the Garden Wall, much like many others I'd assume, I sort of took it at face value and kind of thought, this is, a cool stylistic thing. It's taking place in this whimsical, otherworldly land where there's talking birds and singing frogs and all of this. But as I watched the show, I started to pick up on things that the characters would reference on. For instance, they talked about Wirt having been in high school. They talked about pennies. I think at one point he nicknames the frog like Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin or something. So, and then there's a couple of other things, but you get the sense that they're referencing like modern American things. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, is this just a couple of, slip-ups or continuity fudging, if you will? Or is this kind of hinting that these kids are from modern-day America? I didn't think too much into it, but I just kind of was like, oh, huh, that's something. But now, knowing what we know, those references make sense, and all is well. So at the end, we find out kind of that Wirt and Greg had tumbled down the hill on a Halloween night. And that is so great too, isn't it? Because their outfits kind of indicate that they are from some weird world, but instead it's just Wirt's social awkwardness leading him to dress up as some kind of gnome elf guy, and Greg's just imagination having him think that his costume looks in any way like an elephant. But all the same, it's those characters' personalities that allow those Halloween costumes to be misconceived as whimsical fantasy garb. I don't know. The point is, it's very clever, and I love it. And it's one of those things where you see a cool twist, and you kind of wish you could have that innocence back and watch it again. Although I did really enjoy it on my second viewing. So on Halloween night, they try to escape from the cop, who I think clearly was not going to arrest them or do anything serious. But they try to escape him. They jump over the wall, and they tumble down the hill into the river. Now, at the very, very end, we see them getting pulled out of the river, and Wirt's in the hospital. Greg is just fine. Seems like Sarah, the girl that Wirt likes, is, she's still giving him a chance. So everything seems to kind of be all right at the end. The main thing of the series is, and before I say what the main thing of the series is, I want to preface this by saying I have not watched or looked up basically anything about the show in terms of fan theories or anything that the creators might have said. So this is just my kind of raw feelings about the ending, and I'm sure if there is some kind of statement or fan theory, you guys will let me know in the comments, but this is just my reactions to the ending. So my thought is there's two major ways that it can go. They tumble down into the river, and as they're kind of knocked out, we enter into kind of Wirt's dream. He's feeling very guilty about the fact that he's not been treating Greg very nicely. He's a young kid, and he has an active imagination, and Wirt should be a little more accepting, a little nicer to him, and this whole adventure is kind of his mental process as he's tumbled down to the river, maybe got knocked out. This whole adventure that we see with all of these crazy characters, this adventure is his way of processing and learning that he should, treat his brother a little bit better, because we get a lot of signs that maybe he's not been the kindest to him in the past. And a lot of the characters and trials and tribulations they undergo are all of part of this. So they tumble down to the river, where it hits his head. He sort of has this, psychological fantasy journey kind of teaching him something. And as they get pulled out, he learns about that, and he will go on forward to be much kinder to Greg. So that's kind of one way of looking at it. And in any cartoon, if you guys have ever seen on Channel Frederator, Cartoon Conspiracy, if you've ever been on Tumblr or something, anytime basically anything strange happens in an animated series, people just love to flock to this kind of, they're in a coma, the whole show is them in a coma, and it's just like, enough is enough. For this one, I think it's a lot more justified because it's so plainly laid out. I think it really does kind of just say, you can pick which thing you believe. The other thing, of course, being they tumble down into this river and somehow they slip into this other world, and they actually are there, and they actually spend time together. And I think whichever one you choose to like better, I think that's just fine. For me, I actually like the idea that they somehow, maybe because they're brother, I think they're stepbrothers, right? Maybe because they are having this sort of rift between their brotherhood, they're able to slip into this world and learn about each other and, go on this adventure together and become stronger as brothers. And I think when you watch the episodes and you kind of see the way they react with each other, it's it's more rewarding to me to believe that they actually went to this place, as opposed to saying it's all in Wirt's head, because that way Greg gets nothing, he learns nothing out of this whole journey. But honestly, the fact even that this question is raised is really cool. There's a scene right towards the end where Wirt takes a nap. He's kind of given up on everything, and Greg goes off to try to help in some way. He wakes up, and Beatrice's family has kind of taken him in, and he's freezing and cold and dying. And he wakes up, and he wants to rush out and find Greg. And Beatrice's family says, "You need to stay here and rest because you're no good to Greg dead." And Wirt says, "Well, I was no good to Greg alive either." And I think that was my favorite moment of the series. And I think it just shows this journey that he's got to go on. And I really appreciated that. And just to see the characters come this far with like 10 episodes, 5 if you just look at it from like a standard episode length format, it's really something. It really is something. And even though I'm a little bit butthurt about the snub for Gravity Falls this year at the Emmys, even though I don't care about the Emmys at all, but all the same, I hope Over the Garden Wall takes it. I mean, it really, really, really deserves it. And like I said, I have not just rewatched something instantly in a long, long time. So, it kind of just shows how much I really loved this. So I'm curious, what did you guys think of the ending? I assume you all loved it, at the very least. What did you guys think of the ending? Where do you land on the sort of open-endedness of it? And maybe there's some kind of other theory that I didn't even get into yet. I'm sure there's a ton about it. But yeah, so those are my thoughts. And thanks, guys, for stopping by. I know it's a little long-winded, but yeah, I just really wanted to talk about this series because I really loved it. So I'll see you guys soon. Oh, okay, I just listened back through the recording, and it occurred to me that I forgot to talk about another reason why I loved it so much, which is the creepiness factor. I mean, I don't think I've seen so many creepy things in a North American animated TV show ever. I mean, between the first, like, crazed dog that you see, to the pumpkin guys, to the Mother Whispers that I was talking about, to, what was her name, Norma or something, Mother Whisper's daughter, who ends up being, like, a crazed soul-eating demon, to the Beast himself, to other things I'm sure I'm forgetting. There's so much weird, creepy imagery in this. I just loved it. I mean, I'm a big fan of horror movies, and I loved the creepiness of this series. It was done so well, and yeah, just wanted to tack that on there. Okay, I'll see you guys soon.